Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. All over Europe, research managers and support officers are struggling to find a way to best support research teams accessing EU funding. And often there is a lot of creative energy put into solving the challenges. The Grant Office at the University Medical Center Groningen, or UMCG, has a team of 3. Eszter, Laura, and Miriam are at the forefront in the support. In their work, they realize that a basic thing that most teams lack is a structured and strategic approach to funding. They decided to build trainings called Grant Navigator, designed to help researchers understand the funding landscape, think in longer timelines, and act more strategically. Of course, I had to have them in the virtual podcast studio to discuss how they work in their grant office and to share about their training approach and philosophy. So, it became a talk about helping researchers defining long, mid, and short-term goals, look at their research story through an X-ray to identify the underlying building blocks of their work, and then group those into meaningful project sequences before matching them with the grants. This is great content for all grant support professionals. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Now, today I have 3 guests today, and the thing is, when I roam around and browse LinkedIn in my day-to-day work, sometimes things pop up that I really want to invite into the podcast. And here's a case of a university and a research support office that went forward with a strategy and some workshops. And I needed that into the show. And that's why we're here today. So welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks.
Now, first, before I say anything else, can you please introduce yourself? So maybe Eszter, you start.
Yes. I'm Eszter Ashlock-Kéthelyi. I'm a research project manager and a trainer at UMCG. I help researchers secure funding through storyline development, impact planning, and innovation value sessions. I have worked with 42 consortium proposals in the last 3 years. I also design and give trainings at the UMCG and previously spent over 10 years at an EU granting agency working with Erasmus Plus grants, in short.
Thanks. And Miriam.
Well, thanks for having us. My name is Miriam Boersema. I actually have a background and a PhD in medical biology. And at the moment, I coordinate the Grant Office at the University Medical Center Groningen in the Netherlands.
Thank you. And Laura?
My name is Laura Damiano, and I have a background and a PhD in molecular biology. I have been working here at the University Medical Center in Groningen since 2018. First as project manager and editor, and now as grant advisor and trainer.
So all 3 of you, you're in the research management category, and I'm doing a lot of content on these things because it's very interesting, and also it's very interesting what's going on within research management these years throughout the continent. Now, today we're not going to talk about how to write proposals today. We're going to talk about, and you framed it yourself brilliantly. So we're going to talk about why proposals fail before the writing even starts, and that's of course the big label on that is of course you need a strategy. Yeah, so we're going to talk strategy. We're going to talk how to support the researchers out there in the different teams and institutes, and how a research support office like yours, how you have attacked it, and how you've dealt with this case. So let's just move into the first block. I have labeled that the recurring problem, strong science and weak planning. Now, who wants to pick it up?
I give a bit of a background on how this all started. So the UMCG alongside clinical care and education, has a lot of researchers, about 1,100 working, also on a wide range of topics from biomedical, clinical, and translational fields, all contributing actually to the mission of the UMCG, which is enabling more healthy years for everyone. However, actually, as Grant Office, we are the first point of contact for researchers if they have any funding-related questions, but we are a relatively small team. So at some point during one of our meetings, we decided that next to one-on-one support, we would also like to move towards more training to really support groups of researchers. So when we started to develop these structured trainings, and this is actually how the Grant Navigator training was born. So it's designed to teach researchers not only how to navigate the landscape, but also how to act on it. So it also includes writing training, impact sections. It's a whole design of, I think, about what we have now, 7 different workshops in total that researchers could follow throughout the whole year. But also can choose one of them if they feel they need some extra expertise in one of these specific sections. And that is also how, so that is the whole program. And in this podcast, then we specifically zoom in on the strategy and funding landscape, which is sort of the start of the whole training series.
Yeah.
Yes, and this topic is connected to one of the common pain points that we identified when working with researchers, because researchers work hard, their science is strong, but still they miss out on funding. And so we were thinking, how can we help them? And then, one way of helping them is to provide them a funding landscape overview. So what calls are out there, giving information to them about that. But we kind of sense that there are other issues as well. It's not just a lack of overview of the funding landscape, but as well, so they don't really know what's out there, and then they just apply for grants that accidentally land in their inbox instead of going selectively for grants that are really good matches to their subject, and they start preparing too late, and overall they don't have a long-term game plan in their mind. So they are busy with the projects that they are working with, but many of them don't have a long-term game plan, and they don't think about projects that they should be connected to each other, and they are like stepping stones leading to their long-term goals. And when we talk to them, then it often comes up that they kind of believe that the grants, the calls, they come out of the blue. So they don't have this awareness that most calls are predictable, actually, on a national and EU level. And also they cannot distinguish what are the must-have grants and what are the nice-to-have grants. What's the difference between them? Because nice-to-have grants are grants that, yes, we all have been to conferences and met people there quite superficially. And then after that, some of them reach out to us if we want to get into projects. But it can be that the subject of those projects are not that closely connected to what we want to do. Those are nice-to-have projects. They can be understood as distractions from the main ambitions. And must-have projects are really projects that help us to get closer to our long-term goals. And the grants connected to that, those are must-have grants. So overall, they don't have all of this understanding. And the consequence of it is that they miss deadlines, they miss funding. And the consequence of that there can be gaps in their careers, because there are periods when they don't have funding available to continue. So these are the issues that we have been experiencing.
Yeah, I'm just going to wind up the introduction finally. So your team, how long have you been working together, the 3 of you?
3 years. You two, a bit longer.
Yeah, and us longer. Me and Laura.
Me and Miriam. I don't know.
And so, because this is a classic issue here, so when did you realize that you needed to have this workshop approach and self learning, so to say, helping the researchers to be able to do it themselves, going from individual support and trying to broaden it out to kind of carry more with you? How long did it take? When did you start to have these reflections?
I think about 3 years ago when we had a
Okay.
meeting from the Grant Office, and we often do this like as Grant Office Eisenhower table on what we want to prioritize, what we think is important, and what not. And there we really came to the conclusion that if we want to empower researchers to understand the funding landscape and to act on it, we need something broader than only one-on-one support.
And that bridges us into what you just said, Eszter, because you sort of have mapped, you sort of sketched for us what are the issues, what are the challenges, what is the day-to-day challenges to support researchers on funding, and it echoes what I hear when I have other conversations. It's always the same issues. Researchers, they are very die-hard people. They you cannot they go to the end of the world for what they're researching in, but sometimes they lack structure when it comes to the external funding and that part of it. So that's where you come into the picture.
Exactly.
So this strong science, weak planning. So you mapped it and got an idea. When did it grow on you that you needed to? So you said 3 years ago, but what did you do then?
Yeah,
So you have these consequences. You saw too many missed deadlines. You saw that it was a little unstructured, and maybe also careers were sort of career uncertainty and people, like unstructured around this.
Yeah, so we have been giving these funding landscape overview sessions, like presentations to researchers. But what we experienced that this is a really nice high overview, and it's a high value job to give this value to researchers, and they are really appreciative. At the same time, there is like an arm's length distance between this high overview and their own reality. And we need to bridge this gap somehow. So these are the options, the calls out there, and they have their career or research trajectories. And how can they select the options that are good for them? And they were struggling to do that. So we were thinking about how can we bridge this gap between the high overview of potential calls out there and their reality. And then in 2023, we got a request from an external partner, a hospital, and they wanted a workshop on the funding landscape and grant strategy building. And that's when, with a colleague, Leonie Beyers, we got together and we were thinking about how to do it. Okay, yes, of course, we want to give an overview of the funding landscape, but how can we make it practical? So how not to scare them away? And then, so we came up with the first version of tools, how to structure the ideas. And then, but after the session, we felt like, okay, these are like in the baby phase. These tools are in the baby phase. So we need more professional tools to structure researchers' ideas. And we need to help them to zoom out to get the big picture and to help them think about what's the long-term game plan you have, what's the mid-term game plan you have, and what's the short-term game plan. And after that, once we are done with this, then help them to look at the same researcher story through an X-ray. So when you go to a hospital and you get an X-ray done, then it's not the little details of the clothing that the X-ray shows, but the structure and the internal organs, the building blocks of the body. And similarly, we need to help researchers to look at their research story through an X-ray. So we see the structure and the building blocks of what they do. Because different projects may look completely different on the surface, but structurally, the building blocks are often the same. And those are exactly what you need for planning. So we need to help them identify what are the research tasks that they need to do so they get closer to the long-term goals. Because all researchers work on conceptual development. They want to work out proof of concepts. Then they build prototypes. Then they test and validate prototypes in a closed environment. Then if everything works out, they move on to real-world testing, small scale and then larger scale. And if everything works well, then the innovation gets the real world use. So that's the structure that flows across all research projects that we work with. And these research tasks, the building blocks like conceptual development or prototype development and testing and validation, these are the research tasks, the building blocks of what they do. And once we help them to identify these building blocks, then we ask them, okay, how can you group these tasks into meaningful projects? And once they come up with several projects, a sequence of projects, that's when we start matching with grants.
Maybe we will dig more into the to how you're doing these building blocks, but maybe first we sort of paint the picture of why traditional funding guidance sometimes falls short. Now, like researchers, they struggle. It's always a struggle to they have, as we just discussed, they are very focused on their research, and they need external resources, also the funding they get if it's a public university like yours. So they get from the channels, normal channels, and external funding, and it can be chaotic. For them, because they have so many other things to think about. They have to deal with students, they have to deal with PhDs, they have to plan, they have to deal with their own research, and then they have to do grants, applications, and identify where to get it and so on. And that's naturally you get lost if you have your research focus on, like most of these people, they have a research focus. So to be structured around calibrating a funding strategy for themselves, that's rare, you see.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, and it's not what we see. It's not the knowledge about funding that they don't have. They have a lot of knowledge, even sometimes more than us. We see that in our workshops, but it's just the structure that is missing. So the strategy piece behind it. So that's where we help, giving them kind of a structure.
Give structure, and we help to visualize their ideas, because these floating ideas are in their minds. So we give a structure, a tool where they can place down these ideas on a timeline, and they can group the building blocks into meaningful projects. And then we help them matching the grants. So then they will see that, let's say, in the 5 years run, what projects am I planning that get me to my long-term goal, and what grants do I need for those? And they slowly realize that they need actually a combination of grants, and not 1 or 2 grants, but a combination.
Yeah, and then if you have a strategy, you can also make a planning that allows you, even if you're busy, hopefully, to plan a few of these funding opportunities in the coming years.
Yeah, but it's a matter of it's exactly this, because most funding schemes runs in cycles,
exactly.
right? So you can plan these things if you know where to go. But of course, you need to find out, okay, this is an ERC researcher, is it a Horizon Europe researcher team, is it a life or whatever? Is it a national funding? Where do we go with this? And then sitting down, what is the cycle? How do it fits with your year as a researcher, as a professor, or like with teaching and so on. So putting things a little bit into structure, so they can, because you can actually, as you probably have as a result of what you're doing, you can actually plan quite far ahead with these researchers.
I would say 5 years. Yeah. We were discussing beforehand. We don't think that it's realistic to do longer planning with individual researchers than 5 years. Of course, we ask them about the long-term game plan, but that's more like a direction. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think 5 years is realistic
On an individual level.
For
jobs, it can be longer, right?
Yeah.
The midterm. So short term is 1-2 years, midterm is 5 years. And the long-term plan is more like a direction for an individual researcher. And on a group level, the midterm can be longer. But we were discussing before that when we work out, or we help them to work out a grant strategy, we shouldn't look at this document as something final and set in stone. because this should be like a living document that that they revisit regularly and do a reality check if everything is still realistic. Because if they don't do that, then it happens the same thing like when you put a box of milk in a fridge, then if you just leave it there, then it gets sour. The same thing happens to a grant strategy that you work out and you just leave it on the shelf. So you need to revisit it once a year and see, check reality. If it's still my plan or need to adjust and check back on grants as well. But at least filter down the grants that are must-haves for you instead of just reacting to grants that come accidentally to your inbox. So this is a big switch from reactive behavior to a more strategic behavior.
Because we all know, you know that, and I know that in the ecosystem of networking and identifying possible partners for the big collaborative projects, we're talking Horizon Pillar 2. That's where you can, because I've been doing that work myself. So who's doing what? Where do we have the best researchers within this and this? Identifying the people, then reaching out. And other peoples are doing that as well, of course, across the continent. So time and again, any researcher that is very good within a specific field that is focused on in Pillar 2 would receive out of the blue an invitation to a Horizon Europe consortium or anything else where and that's good. But of course, it from a strategic point of view, it can be disastrous for the time management of the individual researcher if and the team, if they plan to bandwagon on that, jump on, and having to deal with that pressure to deliver whatever relation to the role they have.
Yeah, but that's why we need to bring up the question, what's a must-have grant and a must-have project, and what is a nice-to-have grant and project?
Exactly.
Because if they are not aware of it, then they just jump on every bandwagon, every invitation.
And having a strategic planning allows you also to find the right partners for that project. So then if there are Pillar 2 opportunities, you can reach out to them in an early phase to develop the project together, which I think also increases your chances of success.
Marie Latour, listener of the ground since several years, so listen to the ground.
All right, I think let's move into because we're just walking around the purge here. Let's move into the strategy, building, and how you because that's what is what triggered my interest in what you have, your findings, and what you as a team decided also as an organization. Because I focus a lot on that also here. It takes managers, it takes the top management also to agree and see this, that we need a strategy around this. So let's move into to the strategy building.
Yes.
Who want to share?
Yeah, how we do it. Yes. So researchers are busy creatures. They are busy with the details of their research story. But often what is missing is the ability to zoom out and to see the big picture and the long-term game plan. So we need to help with that. So that's the first step, what we do. We help them to zoom out and we ask the question, what's your long-term game plan in terms of research? What's your midterm? And then we specify, think about if it's an individual researcher, 5 years term. And then what's your short-term game plan in the next 1 or 2 years? And after that, the next step is to look at the same research story through an X-ray. So as I said, when you go to a hospital and get an X-ray done, the X-ray will not show the details of your clothing, so the appearance, but it will show the structure of your body inside, the skeleton and the internal organs. So similarly, we need to help the researchers to look at their research story through the lens of an X-ray, and then identify what are the building blocks, the necessary building blocks in my research that will get me to my long-term goals. And so we have like a TRL tracker tool. We have a tool, And then we help them to circle the tasks that they are already doing and put a square around the tasks that they want to do in the future. And once they identify those tasks, we tell them, okay, now group these tasks, building blocks, into meaningful projects. So then they start grouping, and they come up with 2-3 projects that are naturally dependent on each other, and they're kind of project sequences. And once we have that laid out, and we put these ideas in an Excel, which visualize their ideas, so they can put down from their minds these floating ideas and put down in this structure, in this Excel structure. So we see the projects laid out and the tasks below. And then after that, we go through the grants, potential grants, and we start the matching. So we connect. And then very quickly, they can see that it's actually not 1 or 2 grants what they need, but they need a combination of grants. So it's not only research grants that they need, but most likely they will need networking grants, or at one point or several points during their career, they will need public-private partnership grants and other sort of grants. And then we teach them to use 4 filters to filter down these options, like what's the area of impact? So where do you want to have impact? Locally, regionally, nationally, EU level, or even globally? So that's one filter. The other filter is to filter down which TRL level are you at and where you want to get to. So that's another filter we use. And help me, what other filters? So, yeah, let me say.
No, but we get the point.
Yes,
You get the point. Yeah. There's some parameters to sort of map them.
And filter down the options. Another one is, do you have the knowledge and the data and the infrastructure to do what you want to do? If yes, then you are good to go with individual grants, personal grants. But if you need partners, if you need knowledge from them, if you need data, if you need their infrastructure, then you need to go towards consortium grants. So that's a decision point as well. So that's a filter. And then the fourth one, it will come to my mind.
I always say, if it's important, it will come back.
So the TRL levels, and then the impact, local, and the partners.
Great. Where did you get your inspiration? Did you think of this approach yourself, or how did? Because now it should be clear for the listeners that here, what I'm trying to do as a moderator and host, so I'm trying to inspire you out there.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening. Yeah. So I'm just try to squeeze you a little bit how you where you got your inspiration from, how you approach the conceptual development.
Yes, it's a work in progress, obviously. So it's still not a finite workshop. So we have been doing the funding landscape sessions forever, I would say, right? So that's one building block of the workshop. But then we were missing the connection to researchers' reality. So they were still struggling to connect and to filter down what's relevant to them. And then we came up with these tools in baby shape in 2023. But then we were like, oh, come on, these are not like professional tools. And we are sure that there are tools out there, and mainly in the business sector, they have better planning tools, which you can just move to the public sector. And then we just kept an open eye and open ears. And then it was by accident that I saw on LinkedIn a post by a consultant, Henrik Willerin. So thank you, Henrik. And then...
Not accident, chance.
And he was writing about how he does planning with tech startups. Because he used to work for a Swedish alternative energy company, so in the business sector, and they used like a planning method there for product development. And then when he left the company, then he was already familiar with this way of planning, and then he adopted it to tech startup needs, and that's what he has been doing. So then I reached out to him, and we paid for a consultation. It was a 1 hour-long consultation, and he just shared the method that he uses with tech startups. And I was like, okay, he uses it with tech startups, and we work in the medical field, in the public sector, and a big research organization. But then let's see how we can adapt this to our own needs. And of course, the tool had like a company focus. And here we wanted to use it more for individual researcher focus. But with this colleague, Leonie Beljaars, we were working it out. And we kind of repurposed this tool to our own needs. Mm-hmm. And then we worked it out for the public sector and for a research organization. So, and that's another element, but what I realized that we also need another step, which is the TRL tracker tool, when we help researchers to look at the research story through an X-ray. So that's when we go the skeleton level, the structure level, and that's when we help them to see what are the building blocks of your research. Without that step and that tool, they still wouldn't be able to do it. So there are actually several steps of this workshop. One is the funding landscape. Second, the research story. So we have researchers to zoom out and see the big picture, long-term game plan, mid-term and short-term. And after that, the TRL tracker tool. So we help the researchers to look at the research stories through an X-ray to go structural level, skeleton level, what are the building blocks. Once we identify the building blocks, we ask them to group them into meaningful projects. And after that, we use the adopted tool from Hendrik that he picked up from an alternative energy company originally. And then we put the ideas in a structure and we visualize it. So we put everything on a timeline.
Yeah, is that a matrix or is it an Excel sheet or is it a canvas? Yeah. So the researchers, how have they been receiving this?
Well, I have some of the feedbacks from them here. So because
stop this right now.
So yeah, at the end of each workshop, we ask them for some goodbye notes, so we know straight away what they think about it. So let me just read out some. So I got lenses to guide opportunity selection, which simplifies getting insight in where to go. And the grant strategy seems a good way to transition from reactive to proactive. Thanks. You gave us good and useful tools to prepare our own funding plan. And there's a remark, please share with us the societal readiness levels. Health is a comprehensive transdisciplinary field. Excellent workshop, thanks. So what they point out that they realize how much reactive they have been and that they need to be more looking into the future and act more strategically. And yes, probably it's helpful for them to get the funding landscape overview and as well to go skeleton level and identify the building blocks of the research and as well put everything into a structure. So it's visual. They don't need to keep things in their minds, which is heavy. We help them to put it out in a structure.
They have dedicated time to really think about where they want to go with their research and put it on paper.
And for the tool, we gave it to them and they had the opportunity to fill it out. And we didn't receive, a completed filled in tool, but at least they start thinking of it and we discuss it together so that they, if they want, they can fill it out, in the future.
So they also learn from each other a lot during the workshop itself and they share.
Because we have 2 sessions actually. So in the first session, we introduce them into the way of planning. And then there is like a 2 weeks period when they get these tools and they do the planning. And then we come back together. And then, so they do the homework. And then we ask several of them if they would be willing to show in front of the group what they have done. And then we discuss it together. Like, what is it that works or what are the blind spots maybe that they haven't thought about? And that's how we work with them.
Yeah. How Now, so that was actually a question I have to follow up. So how far down the rabbit hole do you go with them? Because let's say that they have made this matrix, and let's say they are doing something that is related to Horizon Europe, energy efficiency in industry, in the upcoming calls in autumn. Do you then facilitate to making that operational, so to say? Do you reach out to possible collaboration partners for that research team based on that matrix you have made that they should go, or how does that work?
No, not.
Or do you do anything like that? Do you connect them, or do you?
Well, we guide them towards Scout Helix, for instance, right?
Okay.
To find partners, but we ourselves, we don't
No.
often reach out.
They do some, well, of course, now when we worked a bit more closely with them, they are on our radar. So if we see opportunities for them that are right for them, we can support them, and they reach out to us. That's what I did with a few people that were in the last course, sending them information afterwards as well on certain policies and so on. But in terms of collaboration, no, that's what the researchers themselves do, unless they have a very specific request, and then they come to us.
Mm-hmm. And how is it also, let's say, ERC? And so the individual grants, do you give them a hand with that, or how is that? Or do you review?
Yes, but that's not part of this training, but we extensively support career grants as well. So for ERC starting, we have like a whole series starting with write a concept note, discuss this, get feedback. There's review support, visual design workshop, editing, mock interviews. If you get to that phase, there's a whole support structure for individual.
Yeah. So this is that's your work, right?
That's our work. That's the more one-on-one / bit of a group support that we have. Yes.
Yeah, but if we circle back to the grant strategy building, then there is one segment still that we include, which is on networking.
Yeah, because even if we don't put them in contact, one of the module is about networking, because they also need to understand that networking is also part of the strategy. You don't go far if you go alone. I mean, if we just think about the funding landscape and the collaborative grants, or if you think about innovation, it rarely happens inside your immediate circle. So it's also to make them understand that if you want to reach your research vision, you need collaborators, you need the right stakeholders, right? And also networking is not just exchanging business cards or connecting on LinkedIn. It is really planting and cultivating meaningful relationships. And it needs to be intentional, strategic, and built around your research vision. And we see...
Amen to that.
I mean, we see that sometimes it's also uncomfortable for some of them, because it's not everyone is a natural networker.
No.
And it can be quite draining for some people. So we also give them some hints, right? It doesn't need to be complicated. You just can write an email. You can ask your supervisor to connect you to someone, or say yes to a coffee chat during a conference. So make it small, not make it really complicated. And also what we see that usually in these networks, there are a lot of friends. Sometimes friends don't help you reach your research vision. So it's also good to understand that you need some other partners and stakeholders. So it's really understanding that strategy is not only understanding for which grant you want to go, but it's also building your network. So strategy, it is collective and not individual.
Yeah, and it's very important, right? Because it's academic networks are per se conservative per se, yeah? And they are often quite closed. Mm-hmm. Everybody plays with the ones they've been playing with for the last 15 years. They even sort of, I've seen it in front of my eyes, how they coordinate which grants they go after, how much do you get, how do I get, and to break into those, if you come as a newcomer or if you're in that specific area for funding, you need to kick in the door a little bit, and that can be tricky, as you said, for some researchers, because they not necessarily introvert, but they are often researchers very dedicated to the academic field and not so much to that outgoing approach. So
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I think we covered it quite well, no? I would like to move into the next block on scaling it up. And that also folds out a little bit of question I would anyways want to ask about the difference from the individual researcher support strategy to research teams and maybe even institutes or faculties. But can you share how you have worked with this? Because that's what you started with in this episode, right? You said we want to lift it up, so we help more people at the same time, so to say.
Yeah, indeed, because helping individuals one-on-one is of course not scalable. So we started with the training, but ideally then we also would like to go on the department level. That's still in baby shoes. So we haven't really, we are just in a pilot phase. Yeah. So the idea is to create funding strategy at the department level. So understanding what are the research lines and then coupling the research lines and where they want to go, at the department level and coupling them with the funding. That yes, we are starting, but we haven't any result, unfortunately, yet. So maybe in the next podcast, in 1 year, we can we can discuss this.
Yeah, but what I want to dig a little bit of take the stick and pick a little in is your thoughts about how you want to build it up, because you have yourself now you have a lot of experience from building the strategy. Yeah, with the workshops and so on, and with the individual support. So, what thoughts do you have about how to? Because of course there will need to be a lot of meetings. You'll need to sort of get a profile of each team. How far down do you go down to research team, or how?
Yeah, so we do the department. We do research lines, and then. Research teams. That's the idea, right, Miriam? To go to research teams, yes.
The individual support, especially for career grants or things, I don't think we will not stop with that.
Of course not.
This will be an addition to a broader group, hopefully also for researchers that they themselves can be, can arrange this and choose the right funding.
Have you... I'm going to ask you a question. That's based on the knowledge I have from the conversations I've been having with other research managers that've been building up a strategy. And one of them is Stephanie Hafenstiller from RWTH Aachen in Germany, the big technological university there, or technical university. Now, one of the biggest problems she found in their research teams when it comes to upscaling them on how to approach funding was that people leave. They get other jobs. They move into postdocs, or then they get a postdoc in another university. But they might have been a resource in the team that they are in on a cornerstone in understanding how funding works and how to. So is that something you have seen, that issue, that you where you feel that you have built people up and then they leave and then you need to try to find a way?
Not really. We didn't come into that problem. I mean, unless you talk about a really, really young, early career researcher, right? Maybe after PhD or 1-2 year of their postdoc, then yes, I mean, that's also sometimes how the postdoc life is, right? You move from one place to another. But more along the way, we have not seen that, right, Miriam?
Okay.
No. And I think also when we had these discussions on younger researchers, we also said that we also want to educate them as well. Also being a good employer, even if they go away, we still think it's very important to also give them the knowledge, and then they can also take it to their next job if they need.
That's a good public administration approach. I'm a good civil servant. I've been it myself. There's a big amount of heart and behind that. So yeah, of course.
What other challenges have you heard about when it comes to grant strategy planning?
I think it's the same things that you have mentioned here. So I think for when it comes to a strategy is a generic thing, yeah. But you are helping people, yeah. So this trick with its human psychology, a lot of the things you do every single day, that's human psychology and understanding how to handle specific personalities, how you support them best, and getting that under your own skin to be able to support them the best, so they also feel that they get the best out of the support function. And that's something that many of my former research managers have mentioned, that the personal interaction is sometimes something that can be quite challenging, because it's so diverse. Also, if you're working with a lot of people, because you cannot take out the human psychology and the empathic element that you need to have to support. Yeah. So and that can be tiring. Yeah, it can drain a lot of energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. In the last 3 years, I've worked on 42 consortium grants, consortium proposals. And yeah, with some people there is a really good match, and with some other people the match is not that good. And yeah, it can be draining.
Yeah, and that's just how it is, it's not different. Now we're talking a lot about the researchers and how they are, but it's not different from any other organization in this world, because I've been in different places and I've been working with difficult, where energy was a little tense, or lots of frictions and so on. So this is just how it is when you collaborate in a team, and when you have to collaborate with a lot of people. But specifically for this, because it's so vital that you are supposed to get them resources. For something that they care dearly about. It's life and death. Yeah.
It's their best interest.
You cannot, can you not understand this? This, I need to do, and I cannot adapt my approach to this Horizon Europe project because I have to do it like this. But there are these and these partners. No, I don't care. This is the way I do it, and that's that. And then having to navigate in that, because you do want to help the individuals that you're supporting, at the same time as you sometimes sit a little bit in a tight spot, support function. Let's just move into the reflection and advice, because we are already sort of in that corner. Yeah? Unless you have anything else you want to talk about, your visions. You can also share that. What is your vision for? Yeah, but that's actually a good place to start before we talk about reflections. Visions. So speaking of, now you're scaling up. That means that you sort of have an idea how to build further up, and so. But what is your sort of? Have you dotted that down on paper? Where you should be in 5 years. Now we talked about the researchers and in how they should be in 5 years.
Our vision. Yeah, I think ideally, next to this, we're, for example, also developing the new UMCG research strategy. Mm-hmm. So ideally, in a few years, we can connect everything. There's a UMCG research strategy, departments and also groups have a research strategy, and we can then also help them developing all of them, their funding strategies, that it all matches up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good. So because it's good for a team like yours, because you are three, and I've been having people in where there's just been one person. Yeah? or 2 persons. You are 3. You're a small team, but you're still 3. Yeah? So you have a chance to exchange and to brainstorm on the table on where you actually want to be, calibrating that also with the strategy of the university. All right. Thanks. Let's move into the reflections and advice. What do you want to share? You should think people like you.
As you said, we are here 3, but I mean it's more, right? In our team we are more, and also we have created. Eszter set up this training, and there are different modules, but so there are more project managers and grant advisors who give these trainings. So today we are only here 3 of us talking about it, but the team is bigger, and so we also have the expertise in-house to build and to give these trainings. That I think it's really wonderful. Yeah.
And I think everyone is very motivated to support researchers with their own expertise, and especially the combination of all that different expertise, I think matches very well.
Yes. Do you have any advice?
For whom?
For research managers that are also building a strategy or are thinking about building a strategy. Is there any?
Coming up with the option of group training and like a more group perspective, that's a game changer, because when you work with this many researchers as we do, so over 1,100, then this one-on-one consultancy cannot be the only way. So the realization that we need to do something else as well as complementary to the one-on-one and offer some group options. So to me, that would be an advice that in their grant offices or research support units, if they can think about how they can help researchers in groups, because they can reach more people that way.
And I think we hope, well, the effects are not there yet, but if everything works out, that people start working with funding strategies, we can also plan our support on our side better if there are longer term strategies, so that it also will help us in the end again to better plan the support.
And as well, another thing is that is happening here in the region, that different organizations pool resources. So we work together with the University of Groningen, with the grant office there, and they offer support, and the UMCG as well offers support, because developing support and a training is expensive and needs expertise as well. So it doesn't make sense that each organization in the region develops their own, but what we do, we pool resources and we share these resources. So those researchers from the University of Groningen can come to our training, and our researchers from UMCG can go there to their sessions. So another advice is pool resources with other organizations in your region. You don't need to invest money in developing these trainings yourself. If the other organization in your region has a good training, then make the deal with them and then send your researchers there or invite them to your training.
Was it difficult to get the researchers on board, or were they just following you? Understand what I mean? Have they been receptive, so to say?
Yes, this is the workshop that is the most popular next to the grant writing one. So this is very popular. Yeah. They need the money to continue their work, so they come.
Standing there with the euro bills in front of their nose. What about yourself? Has there been any challenges in mindset? Did you have to challenge yourself in your approach to things? Did you have to have conversations on, wait a minute, no, wait, we can't do like we always do with this. We have to. On
my behalf, what I've been thinking is, how can I make things applied? I don't want to just dump information on them. I want to invite them to do things for themselves. So how can I make things practical? To me, that's what I've been busy with. And that's the challenge.
I found it quite fun to do this training. Also with the researchers, they are quite receptive and collaborative. And the fact that we realize that there is a lot of knowledge in the class, in the group, and we use that knowledge. So that's not, as Eszter said, only telling them things, but they use their knowledge and they exchange. And so it's also the workshop. It's sometimes workshops can kind of seem draining also from the trainer. The trainer can get drained, but this is not a workshop where I get drained.
Okay.
It's a very nice exchange, I would say.
Positive energy.
And the researchers themselves also, we see that they get energized when they talk to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many times we just turn the question back to them and then we ask them, what do you think? Or how do you do it? So it's not like a one-way information sharing coming from us, but then they come with a question and then we turn it back. And what do you think? How do you do it? And that way we turn them towards each other and they start sharing in between. So it becomes multidirectional.
Well done. The Grant. It bridges us finally into the final segment that I have in all my episodes. So the toughest challenge.
Yeah, the challenge was that we had these tools in baby shoes. And then we needed more professional tools. So that was a challenge. But then, it came by accident.
And I think, and we still improve every year, right? Every year we get lots of feedback, good feedback from the candidates.
We improve, we change it, so it's always different also.
Mm-hmm.
Toughest challenge is, to get researchers committed and that they commit the time, right? That they always say that they don't have time. But then when they come to our workshops, then they appreciate the fact that they spent the time on it. So sometimes the toughest challenge is just to convince them to come. But once they come, they are always happy to have spent that time. Because usually they don't take the time to think about strategy.
And I guess now the challenge is if they developed a funding strategy, that it's not staying like in a drawer, but they indeed keep it as a living document. To revisit it afterwards or every year, every few months at least.
Eszter, toughest challenge?
Yeah, just to dedicate the time to do it. And then so they realize that building a grant strategy actually saves them time. Because if they can filter down what are the grant options relevant to them, then so they go for less nice to have grants and they cut out the distractions more.
That's it, ladies. We're done.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Super, you did well. Now I'm just going to land the plane of this program before we say goodbye to the listeners. So dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to this program to the end. Now, if you like what you've been listening to here, if this is the content that you're interested in, I have a gift for you if you are a newbie of the grant, because there's a lot of content on research management on my platform, thegrant.eu. So go in there. I've gathered all my episodes in a chronological order under Podcast Universe, and I have also categorized things. So you will find under the tag campus, you will find all the research management content. So go there, and when you go there and you see, wow, this is a fantastic initiative, how can I support this guy? You can. It's very simple. Just go to, there's an online form on each website under my website, and you can connect to my email list. It doesn't cost you euros, and I don't bother you a lot. Finally, connect with me on LinkedIn, Niels Tudor Winther. I'm the only person in the world with that name, so it shouldn't be too difficult to catch me. And you can also go and connect or like the grant page. I'm gonna follow in there. That's where the flow is, that's where the fun happens, and this is where, as you can see from this episode, the three ladies, kind ladies here, they were invited in as guests, and so can you if you have something you want to share with my listeners in the community. So that's that. Thanks for joining me. It's been a very, very nice conversation. Now let's say goodbye to the listeners. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link to the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to the guest personal LinkedIn sites, and you'll also find a link to University Medical Center Groningen. Next week, I will zoom in on municipalities and funding. I have a guest from a small municipality in Denmark for an exchange on how they use funding to boost a sustainable energy development. You can indeed look forward to that.